How many of you have ever felt stuck in a relationship or a situation, knowing deep down that you need to move forward, but something holds you back? It's frustrating, isn't it? Today I want to talk about a pattern, a single thing that keeps so many avoidant men chained to situations they don't want to be in. It's not weakness, it's not fear as we often think. It's something deeper, more primal, and if we don't recognize it, it controls us less like a puppet on a string. But here's the good news: once you uncover this thing and take charge of it, you gain the power to make decisions that align with your truth. So let me ask you, are you ready to break free from what's holding you back? Are you ready to step into the life you deserve? Because today we're not just identifying the chains, we're breaking them. Let's go. Avoidance is not just a surface level behavior, it is often rooted in deeper, unresolved inner conflicts that shape an individual's reactions and decisions. For many avoidant men, these conflicts are tied to past experiences that left emotional imprints. These could be moments of rejection, criticism, or feelings of inadequacy that were never fully addressed. Over time, these unresolved emotions manifest as avoidance, creating a shield to protect against potential pain or discomfort. The human mind is wired to seek safety, and when past wounds remain unhealed, the subconscious prioritizes avoidance over confrontation. This often stems from a fear of vulnerability and ingrained belief that expressing emotions or facing challenges will lead to further hurt. Instead of addressing the issue, an avoidant person may withdraw, delay decisions, or stay in situations that feel safe, even if they are unfulfilling. These inner conflicts can create a cycle of avoidance that becomes self-reinforcing. Every time a man avoids addressing a problem, he momentarily feels relief, which reinforces the behavior. However, this short-term comfort often comes at the cost of long-term growth and fulfillment. The root cause, whether it's fear of failure, rejection, or conflict, remains buried, driving future decisions and perpetuating the cycle. What complicates the situation further is that avoidance is often rationalized. The mind comes up with logical reasons to justify inaction, such as believing it's not the right time or things will work themselves out. These justifications act as a mask for deeper unresolved issues, making it even harder to break free from the pattern. Addressing avoidance requires digging into these buried emotions and understanding how they shape behaviors. Only by identifying and working through these inner conflicts can one start to take conscious control over their actions and decisions. Emotional dependency is a significant factor that keeps avoidant men from leaving situations they feel trapped in. At its core, emotional dependency arises from an internal fear of losing the perceived stability or validation that comes from the relationship or circumstance. For many, the thought of stepping away triggers a cascade of feelings, guilt, shame, or even fear of abandonment that can be overwhelming and paralyzing. This dependency often has its roots in early life experiences where conditional love or approval shaped an individual's sense of self-worth. Over time, this can create a subconscious need for external validation where staying in a familiar, even if unfulfilling, situation feels safer than the uncertainty of being alone or making independent choices. Avoidant men might rationalize their decision to stay by convincing themselves they are protecting the other person's feelings, but in reality, they are avoiding their own discomfort. Guilt is a particularly powerful emotion in this dynamic. Avoidant men often internalize the belief that leaving would make them responsible for the pain or disruption it may cause. This guilt can weigh heavily, acting as a barrier to taking decisive action. Similarly, shame can come into play, particularly if leaving is perceived as a personal failure or a betrayal of societal or familial expectations. These emotions create an invisible tether, keeping men bound to situations they instinctively want to escape. Even when they recognize the relationship or circumstance is no longer serving them, the emotional weight of dependency makes breaking free feel insurmountable. The fear of being judged or misunderstood by others further compounds the struggle, reinforcing the tendency to remain avoidant rather than confront the situation head-on. The allure of the comfort zone plays a powerful role in keeping avoidant men from leaving situations they no longer want to be in. The comfort zone represents familiarity, predictability, and a sense of control. It is a psychological space where everything feels safe because it is known, even if it is not fulfilling or aligned with their deeper desires. For avoidant men, stepping outside of this zone can trigger feelings of uncertainty and fear, which are often more daunting than the discomfort of staying where they are. When someone remains in their comfort zone, they avoid the unknown, which inherently carries risks of failure, rejection, or emotional pain. The mind often exaggerates these risks, making the potential consequences of change seem far worse than they might actually be. As a result, avoidant men may convince themselves that staying put is the better choice, even if it means compromising their happiness or personal growth. Another factor is the brain's natural tendency to resist change. Neuroscience shows that the brain seeks efficiency by following established patterns and habits. Breaking out of these patterns requires conscious effort and energy, which can feel daunting. Avoidant men already prone to withdrawal may find this extra effort overwhelming and retreat further into their comfort zone. The comfort zone also provides an illusion of stability. For many avoidant men, the idea of disrupting their current life, even if it's unsatisfying, feels like stepping into chaos. This perceived stability becomes a crutch, offering a temporary sense of security that masks the underlying dissatisfaction. Over time, this reliance on the comfort zone reinforces avoidance behaviors, making it even harder to take the leap into the unknown. Self-awareness is the cornerstone of breaking free from avoidance. Without understanding the deeper forces at play, an avoidant man remains stuck in patterns of behavior that feel automatic and beyond control. Self-awareness involves the ability to recognize and acknowledge one's thoughts, emotions, and actions without judgment. It is about shining a light on the underlying fears, beliefs, and motivations that drive avoidance. For many avoidant men, their actions are guided by subconscious programming habits formed over years of reacting to emotional pain, rejection, or fear of vulnerability. These patterns become so ingrained that they operate on autopilot, creating a sense of powerlessness. Self-awareness interrupts this cycle by bringing these hidden drivers to the surface, allowing the individual to see the choices they are making and the consequences of those choices. Developing self-awareness requires reflection and honesty. It involves asking difficult questions: what am I avoiding and why? What am I afraid will happen if I face this situation head-on? Am I prioritizing short-term comfort over long-term growth? These questions force an individual to confront the root of their avoidance, which is often more about internal fears than external circumstances. Another key aspect of self-awareness is recognizing the emotions that come with avoidance: guilt, shame, fear, or frustration, and understanding where they originate. By identifying these emotional triggers, an avoidant man can begin to separate them from his actions, giving him greater control over his responses. The journey of self-awareness is not always comfortable, as it requires facing truths that may have been buried for years. However, it is a necessary step toward breaking free from avoidance. Only by becoming aware of the patterns and beliefs that hold them back can avoidant men begin to make conscious, empowered choices that align with their true desires. People-pleasing is a deeply ingrained habit that often traps avoidant men in situations they struggle to leave. At its core, people-pleasing is driven by the need for external validation and the fear of disappointing others. Avoidant men may feel obligated to prioritize others' needs and emotions over their own, even when it comes at the cost of their happiness or well-being. This behavior stems from a desire to maintain harmony and avoid conflict, but it ultimately reinforces avoidance and keeps them stuck. For many, people-pleasing develops as a coping mechanism in early relationships. They may have learned that love, acceptance, or approval was conditional on meeting the expectations of others. Over time, this belief becomes a subconscious script, dictating their interactions and decisions. As adults, avoidant men may find it difficult to set boundaries or say no, fearing that doing so will lead to rejection or conflict. This tendency to please others creates a cycle of self-sacrifice. Avoidant men may remain in unfulfilling relationships, jobs, or commitments because they feel responsible for the well-being of others. They often convince themselves that their discomfort is a small price to pay for keeping the peace or avoiding confrontation. However, this mindset prevents them from addressing their own needs and desires, leading to a growing sense of frustration and resentment. People-pleasing also leads to a pattern of avoidance when difficult decisions arise. Instead of facing the potential discomfort of standing up for themselves, avoidant men may choose to stay silent or go along with what others expect. This avoidance perpetuates the cycle, making it even harder to break free and prioritize their own well-being. Recognizing and challenging this behavior is essential for reclaiming autonomy and making decisions that align with their true values. The fear of being perceived as the bad guy is a significant barrier that prevents avoidant men from leaving situations they feel trapped in. This fear is rooted in a deep concern about how their actions will be judged by others and the potential harm their decisions might cause. It stems from a desire to be seen as kind, responsible, and caring even at the expense of their own happiness or authenticity. For avoidant men, the prospect of leaving often feels like a direct challenge to their self-image and values. They may believe that taking decisive action, particularly if it involves ending a relationship or commitment, will label them as selfish, uncaring, or even cruel. This internalized fear creates a paralyzing sense of guilt, making it easier to stay in an unfulfilling situation than to confront the uncomfortable reality of being misunderstood or criticized. This fear is often compounded by societal and cultural expectations. Men are frequently taught to be protectors and providers, responsible for the emotional well-being of those around them. Walking away can feel like a failure to uphold these roles, further intensifying the fear of judgment. Even when they recognize that staying is not serving anyone, the weight of these expectations can make it incredibly difficult to take action. Another layer of this fear is the potential fallout from leaving. Avoidant men may worry about the emotional pain they will cause to others or the reactions they might face, such as anger, disappointment, or blame. The anticipation of these responses can feel overwhelming, reinforcing the instinct to avoid confrontation altogether. Ultimately, this fear traps avoidant men in a cycle of inaction where the desire to maintain a good guy image takes precedence over their own needs and personal growth. Emotional resilience is a critical skill for overcoming the barriers that keep avoidant men from leaving situations they feel stuck in. At its essence, emotional resilience is the ability to handle discomfort, uncertainty, and emotional pain without being overwhelmed by it. For avoidant men, a lack of resilience often leads to retreating into avoidance behaviors rather than confronting challenges head-on. Decision-making is a crucial act of self-respect, and for avoidant men, learning to make decisions confidently can break the cycle of inaction. Often, avoidant individuals struggle with decision-making because they fear making the wrong choice, facing negative consequences, or upsetting others. The act of deciding whether it's leaving a relationship, changing careers, or pursuing personal goals can feel overwhelming because it requires stepping into the unknown and accepting responsibility for the outcome. However, the ability to make decisions is an essential aspect of personal empowerment. Avoidant men who consistently delay or avoid decisions inadvertently relinquish their power and remain stuck in situations that no longer serve them. The longer they wait, the more entrenched the fear of making the wrong choice becomes, creating a vicious cycle of indecision. Decision-making is also an act of self-respect because it involves honoring one's own needs, values, and desires. When a person avoids making decisions, they are essentially ignoring what is best for them in favor of seeking external validation or maintaining comfort. However, by practicing decisive action, avoidant men can assert their right to create a life that aligns with their true self. Each decision, no matter how small, reinforces the belief that they are capable of making choices that serve their well-being and growth. The key to becoming a decisive person is to reduce the emotional weight attached to the decision itself. Instead of overanalyzing every possible outcome or fearing failure, focus on what feels aligned with one's values. By starting with small, low-risk decisions, avoidant men can build confidence in their ability to choose without being paralyzed by fear or doubt. In this way, decision-making becomes not just a tool for moving forward, but a powerful statement of self-worth and autonomy. Taking action despite fear is one of the most powerful ways to break free from avoidance. Fear often acts as a barrier, holding people back from making the changes they know are necessary for their growth and well-being. For avoidant men, the fear of failure, rejection, or the unknown can paralyze them into inaction. However, the key to personal development lies in recognizing that fear is a natural part of the process and should not dictate one's actions. The idea of waiting for fear to subside before taking action is a common misconception. Fear rarely disappears on its own. It must be faced and managed through deliberate action. Avoidant men often fall into the trap of overthinking and analyzing every possible negative outcome, which only amplifies the fear and delays decision-making. Instead of waiting for the fear to pass, it's crucial to take small steps forward, regardless of how uncomfortable they may feel. Taking action despite fear requires shifting the focus from the potential risks to the potential rewards. What is at stake if action is not taken? For many avoidant men, staying in the same situation or avoiding change only leads to more frustration, dissatisfaction, and stagnation. The fear of staying stuck in the same place can often outweigh the fear of change itself. By confronting fear head-on and taking deliberate action, even in the face of discomfort, avoidant men can begin to build confidence and resilience. Every small action taken in the presence of fear strengthens the belief that they are capable of handling whatever challenges come their way. The more they practice this, the easier it becomes to take bigger, more decisive actions that align with their true desires and goals. In conclusion, the journey of breaking free from avoidance is not about eliminating fear or discomfort entirely. It's about learning to face them with courage, self-awareness, and a commitment to living authentically. Each step taken towards understanding the root causes of avoidance, confronting emotional dependencies, stepping out of comfort zones, and practicing self-respect through decision-making leads to greater personal growth and fulfillment. It requires a mindset shift. Leaving isn't a failure, it's a powerful act of self-empowerment and growth. By reframing the narrative around leaving, breaking free from people-pleasing habits, and building emotional resilience, avoidant men can begin to rewrite their stories. They can move from a place of fear and uncertainty to a space where they actively choose what aligns with their true self. Fear may still show up, but it no longer controls their decisions. Taking action despite it is the key to unlocking the life they truly deserve. Remember, true strength isn't about avoiding discomfort, it's about embracing the discomfort, taking action, and trusting that the process of growth is worth every step. The power to change, to leave behind what no longer serves, and to create a life that reflects who you truly are is always in your hands. It's time to take that first step.